The Satire of the Trades, also known as the Teachings of Khety. Khety gave his son, Pepe, this advice as they sat together in the cabin on the deck of a ship sailing south to the palace of Pharaoh. He was en route to apprentice Pepe to the scribes who served the Pharaoh. Learn to write, my son. I have seen how many other kinds of work destroys workers, lacuna. Learning to write can save you from all this suffering. As it says in the Book of Goals, no scribe anywhere in Egypt is poor, lacuna. No other profession can make such a claim. Love writing more than your mother. Writing is better than any other work in Egypt. Even as a young man, the scribe is treated with courtesy and set on important errands. His career begins even before he wears the robe of an adult. I have never seen a sculptor or goldsmith serve as a messenger, but I have seen them as work, at the mouths of their furnaces, with their fingers like the scale-covered claws of a crocodile. Their sweat reeks like the odor of rotting fish. The woodcutter is more wretched than a farmer. His field is the forest, his hoe an axe. He works until dark, his arms ache with heavy labor, and he must still light his own fire. The jeweler shapes hard stones every day. To finish just one small piece of jewelry is a full day's work. When he lies down at dusk, his back aches and his thighs cramp. The barber shaves from dawn until dusk, lacuna. He is a slave to the chins of the world. Like bees in search of flowers, barbers flit from street to street in search of chins to shave. Only the persistent fill their bellies. The arrow maker must sail north to the delta swamps in search of reeds for shafts. When his days are done, he has been bitten by mosquitoes and stung by sandflies until his body is covered with bites. The potter is buried alive in clay. He wallows in mud like a pig to make his pots. His clothes are caked with clay. His loincloth is rotting. He breathes fire from the kiln. He works the clay with his feet and is exhausted by its weight. He clops along the street and tracks mud into every courtyard, lacuna. The gardener bears a yoke. His shoulders slump with age, and there is a festering sore on his back. In the morning he waters his vegetables. In the evening he tends his herbs. And at noon he works his orchard, lacuna. Gardeners work themselves to death, lacuna. A weaver's work is worse than a woman's. With his knees against his chest, he can hardly breathe. If he stops before the day ends, he receives 50 lashes. He must bribe the doorkeeper with his food just to see the light of day. The messenger treks into the desert, leaving his children to take care of his property. Faced with the threats of lions and nomads, he can be himself only in Egypt. When he returns to his door, he is exhausted by his journey. Whether his house is a tent or built of bricks, he is never happy there. The work of a fisherman is the worst of all because he shares the river with crocodiles, but he no longer ever sees them, lacuna. Fear has blinded him to the death all around him. If you know how to write, you will do better than any of these other workers. You will be your own boss. You will not share their misery. It is my responsibility to make this journey with you to the palace. Your time as an apprentice is no more than a day. Your work as a scribe will last for an eternity, longer than the mountains. You will not be like those other workers, who must rise early to face another day of suffering.